big thank you to Lee Kum-ki for sponsoring this video. You can find their products across Western grocery chains throughout Europe. Hey guys, so I thought that some of you may be interested in seeing what I eat in a week. And so I am going to be meal planning with you guys today. It is Sunday morning. A little disclaimer is that I am not the best planner of food. Like I never meal planned before doing this video with you guys. The reason is just because, I shoot basically 3 recipes with you guys every week. And so essentially what I eat during the week is whatever I cook for you guys. So that made it a little bit more difficult, but what I thought that I would do is hit through breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Breakfast, I have the same thing just about every day. And then for lunch and dinner, I thought that I would do 2 different meals, 2 different kind of Asian meals so that we could alternate between like lunch and dinner, and then sometimes we would have it for dinner, sometimes we would have it for lunch. I think this is going to be for 4 meals, just in case for some of you guys that go out during the weekend and sometimes during Fridays. And to be honest, I'm very spoiled by you all and making, different recipes all the time. I can't bear to eat the same things every day. So there's that. So we're gonna give it a go today. I'm gonna do my meal planning a little bit different. I know that a lot of people will just make, like 2 big dishes at the beginning of the week, like on a Sunday, and then stick them into the refrigerator and then just, take them out and reheat them as you go. For me, I find that a lot of the foods, they just, they taste better when I can make it, fresh on the day. And so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna pre-prepare everything so that by the time I want to make it for dinner or by the time I want to make it for lunch, it's gonna take about 15 minutes. So everything will be nice and easy, but then at the same time, we can make it all nice and fresh as well. Okay, so let's start with breakfast first. So breakfast, I pretty much have the same things every day. It's pretty boring. It's basically a shake, and the reason is because I find that it's very difficult to eat, well throughout the day. And so for me, for breakfast, that's like the part of the day that I can really control. So I always have bags of frozen spinach, bags of frozen kale, bags of frozen berries in my freezer. What people say actually is that frozen, in terms of like frozen fruits and veggies, they're really as good as having it fresh because you're kind of sealing and locking in all of the nutrients. Let me just get together all of the ingredients together before we start, okay? So hold on one second. Whew. Okay, so let's start. There's just a lot of things on the table right now. Because breakfast takes so long, and really breakfast is like the main one, that's my ultimate like healthy one, I'm gonna take out, let's say 4 plastic bags. You can feel free to use Tupperware if you want. For these plastic bags, I basically reuse them, so every week I will refill them again with these ingredients. Let's go through some of them because it does take a while to put together. So I'm just going to do one with you and then I guess we'll fast forward through everything. So for each bag, I will usually put around, I'd say like 4 of these. They're like spinach cubes. And I think that there's like about 2 servings of spinach in here, I think, right around 4 to 5. So we can just put that in. I will put kind of right around like a half a cup of, sometimes I'll put less because I'm trying to not have too much fruit, but I'll put a half a cup of blueberries in. Flaxseed in here, just in case if some of my vitamins are fat soluble, I'd like to have some fats in it as well. And then this is hemp powder. So hemp is, there's a lot of fiber in it, there's like a lot of omega acids, but it's also really strong in protein as well. Because, if you're working out or something, or sometimes I just run around during the day and I just end up having a bowl of cereal. So it's not like I'm surrounded with like beans and, all of these good proteins. So I like to make sure to get that covered. So they're not as expensive as normal protein powders, because I used to have protein powders and I found them to be really, very expensive. And so essentially why I do blueberries and then like frozen spinach and kale is because, when you think about vegetables and you think about the ones with the most nutrients, it's usually spinach and kale, the dark leafy vegetables. And then when you think about, nutrient dense fruit, those are usually berries. And then, within that subgroup, it's usually blueberries. So I don't really waste my time. I just kind of feel like breakfast is business. I have the rest of the day to kind of go and pick the things that I like to eat and whatnot, but for breakfast, I want it to be very nutrient dense. Okay, so for anti-inflammatory purposes, so this is actually really packed with good stuff. So I'll usually buy a fresh piece of ginger because I do like the taste of fresh ginger. Just take a spoon, and this is probably the easiest way of peeling ginger. And in general, if I want fresh ginger, this is typically what I'll do. Even for my recipes, if I wanted fresh ginger, is I'll buy a ton of ginger and then I'll kind of peel everything and cut everything. What I have to the ginger is I have turmeric. It's totally possible that you just use turmeric powder because I do that all the time as well, but now that I'm near so many grocery markets and whatnot, I just have fresh turmeric around. So same thing goes for turmeric. Turmeric's a little bit of a pain just because it gets yellow everywhere, so it's good if you have gloves or whatnot. I'll finish peeling kind of a couple pieces of the ginger and the turmeric. Usually it's right around, I'd say like an inch, 2-inch pieces, that in there. And then finally, this is the last thing, a little bit of black pepper, because I had read somewhere, and I'm not sure about this, but I guess black pepper increases the bioavailability of turmeric so that your body can just utilize all of those anti-inflammatory powers just a little bit better. So you can see that there's a fair amount of stuff in this, and then what I end up doing is I usually just mix it with water. I don't really go with the nut milks or whatnot, and it should have a lot of what I need for the day and a lot of what I need for the fiber. Should be around like 3 servings of vegetables and fruits in here already, so that the rest of my day, even if I I'm not too diligent about health or whatnot. Okay, so this is meal 1 of 2 that I'm going to be making 4 times. So I was just thinking, like, 2 of my favorite things that I love eating that I wouldn't mind eating like every day in a row for a really long time is one is Kitsune Udon, and that is basically udon noodles with these fried tofu pieces, and it's usually marinated in like sake and soy sauce and a little bit of sugar, so it's really, really good, and it just it tastes really, really clean as well. So that is going to be number 1, and then number 2 is going to be a Korean recipe. So for this recipe, it does include a lot of udon, so I've kind of found ways to health it up a bit, but let's just start with this first. The first things first is we're going to prepare the broth that we're going to mix with the noodles. So what I have here is about 5 cups of water, and I have soaked this used to be a much smaller piece of kombu, but it got huge. I soaked a piece of kombu in this overnight, and then I kind of just brought it to a boil, turned off the heat, and then just let this guy chill for like an hour or so. And you end up with this it's like the sea. It's flavors of the sea. And so it's somewhat like a dashi, only there's no bonito flakes in it or anything, but you're still going to have like that nice like sea kind of backdrop flavor. Let me just actually read the recipe first. 5 cups here. To that, I'm going to put in, let me see, I'm going to put in 2 tablespoons of mirin. So let's see, 1, 2. And then mirin, if you guys don't know, is basically, it's like Japanese rice wine, but with sugar in it. So 2 teaspoons of sugar. So this is not for the tofu yet. This is just for the soup, that soup base. 2 tablespoons of soy sauce. I'm gonna use my Likumki Double Deluxe. You can feel free to use any soy sauce that you'd like. Just make sure that you like the flavor, right? Because it's going to be your soup base. Just make sure to taste everything, because different people's mirins are different soy sauces are different, so just make sure that you mix it around and that you like what you taste. I forgot to take this guy out. I'm gonna actually take it out. And then so this becomes my soup base for the next 4 days. So whenever you need it, just basically heat it up and then you can pour it over the udon. Okay, so what we're going to do next is we're going to deal with the obora age, the fried tofu pieces for this, because these guys are also marinated as well, right? With like a little sugar, a little soy sauce, mirin, sake, etc., etc. So it's actually amazing and super delicious. Buy these obora age bags like this, and it's usually in either the frozen section or in a section near the tofu. And I've said this before, whenever I cook with this, is there's a lot of oil in it because they fry these these guys up pretty well. So what I did first with these guys is I put it into a pot, a big pot with boiling hot water, and I boiled them for right around 5 minutes before straining them all out, rinsing it all off. And so now I have something like this. It's all dried, it's all nice. Each one is kind of like one big rectangle like this. I'm just going to cut them actually in half, because I find that when you expose the centers, then the marinade can go inside as well. So after we're done with this, I am going to prepare the marinade for this. So I have a recipe for this over on Ismi's Kitchen already, but we're gonna just modify it a little bit. So this is right around 5 packets of this oborage. To that, I'm going to add 2 cups of that dashi broth that we made before. Let's do 3 tablespoons of sugar, 1 tablespoon of sake. So we're gonna add that in as well. And the sake is like, it's like the classic flavor of Japan. It's like when you're dealing with Japanese food and you kind of taste a little bit of that like rice wine taste in the background. That is lovely sake for you. So 3 tablespoons of soy sauce. So I'm gonna go in with the double deluxe again. Hit it with your favorite soy sauce. And this is really, it's one of the yummiest things, because I really like whenever a dish is both kind of sweet and salty at the same time. I think it hits the taste buds all in the right way. 2 tablespoons of mirin, so that is good. So right now, this is essentially in a broth of like really yummy sweetened soy sauce, sake, and mirin. So what you want to do is you want to bring this guy to a boil over the stove and then cook it for right around, I'd say like 20 minutes or so, until a majority of the broth has been reduced down and concentrated, so that the tofu has really absorbed all of that concentrated flavor as well. And then you will be set. Okay, so while the tofu, the oborage, is reducing, we can go to the noodles. So with udon noodles, you can actually get them just right out of the store. They don't have to be refrigerated or anything, and they come in packets like this, right? So obviously easy enough. If we're cooking for about 4 meals, I'll just take out one of these packets, I'll mix it with some soup, and then I'll mix it with some of the oborage over there. But because this dish is this dish is lacking in vegetables. So sometimes like I might slice some leeks on top, or I'll have some greens on the side as well. But you know, sometimes just cooking like an additional green is a lot of work. So what I've been doing as of late, actually with a lot of my recipes, is like, let's say that normally I'll need 4 bags of these. What I'll end up doing is I'll just take 2 bags. And then for the other 2 bags, I'm going to substitute with daikon radish noodles. Normally people do vegetable noodles with zucchini, right? But I don't like zucchini. I mean, I like it in like pizza or something, but I don't like zucchini in noodles because it tastes like zucchini to me. So I'm gonna take this giant daikon radish. If you guys don't like radish, you could totally substitute for maybe like kohlrabi or just like another very hearty root vegetable. You could do that as well. And I like it because daikon radish is like white, just like the udon noodles. So I got something like this the other day, just through Amazon. I think that this is the correct one, but I don't think that this fits, so. Okay, stick this guy on. There you go. It's a little bit hard to maneuver, but essentially, you'll get these daikon noodles. You can kind of see like it looks quite good. What you do pretty much day of is take some boiling water, you're gonna cook the daikon noodles, and then you're going to cook the udon noodles for right around just a couple of minutes until these guys soften up, and then these guys soften up as well. You're gonna heat up your udon noodle soup, the inariage, right on top, and you guys have, you know, a meal with vegetables and everything, and it's like lovely and delicious, and I guarantee you it is all going to be done within 15 minutes or less. Okay, so we're finally on to our last recipe, and for that I am going to do Korean japchae. And japchae is, it's basically like sweet potato noodles. So they're these glass noodles. There's a lot of vegetables in there, so I'm going to kind of make sure that it's a little bit more vegetable heavy. And then once again, there's this kind of like sweetened, mirin-y soy sauce that I think I like a lot, so clearly that's a thing. So the one thing about making japchae in real time is that it does involve a fair amount of cutting. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to prepare all of the vegetables in advance. And I've actually even tried freezing everything. So I actually use this method for like all of my stir fries or anything that requires me to chop up like a lot of vegetables. I just chop everything at once, I stick it into the freezer, and then on the day of, I really just have a bag of, you know, like curry vegetables, or this one's gonna be japchae vegetables, ready to go. And even if I'm feeling lazy, I can still make a fair amount of dishes just because all of these vegetables and kind of the harder parts are already prepped. I'm finding with my eating habits actually is that, you know, when I grew up, the big thing was to just really like load up on carbs, right? That's a lot of Asian eating. It's like a lot of rice, a lot of noodles, yada yada. And then of course, as you get older and you start reading a little bit more about health, you realize that kind of the ratios of like meat and carbs and whatnot should be almost flipped with vegetables. Like certainly you should have more vegetables than actually carbs or whatnot. So. I don't have a very big freezer, and so I have to do something like this, but certainly if you guys have like Tupperware and, you know, a big enough refrigerator, definitely go with that option. So I'm going to give you guys the link to that recipe. What this allows you to do is if you wanted to make a half portion, if you just wanted to make a smaller portion, essentially this will facilitate things so much easier. You know, and then you can just stir fry this actually without any oil. So you can just do this with a little bit of water, just heat everything up, and then your veggie portion is pretty much set. The one thing that I did forget is I always put a little bit more beef crumbles in here or vegan beef crumbles anyways, and it just adds an additional texture to it. It's great because the vegan beef crumbles are also frozen as well, so I can just add that in. It's be like a little shake and bake, and you just kind of just shake it around. And so after this, all you need to do is add the noodles and the sauce, and it is super, super easy from there. Okay, so now time for the sauce, which is actually super easy as well. So I have this on over on Easme's Kitchen. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna do a 1/4 cup of mirin, a 1/4 cup of I have my Lee Kum-Kee soy sauce right here. And this is going to be a good place where you can use a sugar substitute if you want. Anytime you're cooking as opposed to baking, I feel that cooking recipes lend itself a lot better to artificial sweeteners, just because if the artificial sweetener happens to be a little bit bitter or happens to be a little bit funky, other flavors of the cooking process tend to cover it or mask it up. So I would say, you know, if you wanted to use like a stevia or a Splenda or something, feel free to do that. And then just a little bit of this sesame oil as well. So. And then afterwards, I'm just going to put some of this, the Lee Kum-Kee minced garlic as well. You can also do it fresh. You can stir it up if you want to. And sometimes actually what I'll do, if I want to just make everything at once for, you know, the months to come, for the years to come, is I'll actually take an ice cube tray and I will fill it up according to what I want. So if I'm just eating with 2 people, you can fill it up to a 2-person amount. You only need to melt that amount for that amount of noodles. So you kind of fill it up like this, and then once it's frozen, you can actually put it into the bag with all of the frozen vegetables and the frozen meat crumbles as well. So you could essentially make like a packet of everything that you need for japchae other than for the noodles, and you'd be completely set too. so that's it. Anyways, guys, I hope you enjoyed that meal prep time with me. I feel like we spent the entire day together slaving over this table and prep stuff. Let me know if you guys have any questions about the recipe. I know I meal prep just a little bit differently because I like to make them individually, kind of fresh each day. So yeah, let me know if you guys have any questions, and I hope you guys enjoyed watching this, and I will see you guys again soon. Bye.